Hey, what's up, guys? On this episode of Blood, Sweat, and Gear, we're joined by Dave Kalick. Skip is taking the day off. We talk about the Tampa Pro, and then we go into a bunch of listener questions. So stay tuned. We're going to do all that right now. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Blood, Sweat, and Gear. I'm Scott McNally, and with me, as always, is S2H. And sitting in for Skip Hill is our good friend of the show, Dave Kalick. Guys, I'm excited. We are going to start out talking a little bit about the Tampa Pro, because that's coming up hopefully here in just a few weeks. And then we have a bunch of questions. Anybody who would like to take part, feel free to, you can post questions in the live feed at the Advices Radio page, not at the group, not if you've seen this like somewhere else. You have to go like directly to the page and share there. That way I can see it pop up here on my program. Anyway, what's up, guys? Dave Kalick, thanks for joining us.
You bet, guys. A question after we talk about the Tampa Pro, can we, there's a listener question, how much mastodon it's going to take for you to grow a porn stash.
You saw that? You heard that? Where'd you get that from?
There's the handlebar stash. I'm thinking if you breach 300 milligrams a week, you can get the regular porn stash, and if you go 500, you can get the handlebars. So we can go into that question afterwards. But the Tampa Pro, man, it's really, fingers crossed. We all see what's happening with the spikes. And you're just mentioning, Michigan and, other states. Yeah, hopefully it goes off. Hopefully we can sneak it off.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping too, man. Are you planning on going, Dave?
Yeah, I'll be out there. We're fingers crossed to fly out there Wednesday to set up camp, because Adam, the 212, Adam Young, his prejudging is Friday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, weigh-ins and registration are Thursday night for all the athletes, all classes, and then Friday is the actual 212.
Okay. So, Scott, I told Dave I was thinking about going out there to see this show and to follow Dave around as he gets his guys ready, shoot some video of behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. I don't know though, man. I feel like tickets, even if I wonder if I could get a refund, if the whole thing failed. How does that work? Scott,
as you get definitely trip protection on it, obviously.
Yeah. But the tickets though are literally okay. So it's Spirit Airlines, so that's cheap. Cheapest as you can pretty much go. But $92 round trip.
Yeah, worst case you lose $92.
Yeah. Yes.
That's kind of
the insurance on the trip will be half the amount.
Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I'm pumped though, and I really am hoping this happens. You sent some video today. Is this of Dorian?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to see if I can put this up here. Let's see if I can do this without there being volume added. Oh no, just go straight to it. Yeah. He's looking round, dude.
Yeah, this prep has been the best prep yet.
Yeah. What is he weighing around right now?
On low days, he dips into the 40s.
All right.
And we do pretty much, there's a 4-day sequence where we're lower in fats and carbs,
Okay.
And then he goes more into a caloric surplus for a couple days, and he goes high as 265 on those days.
Really?
Oh yeah. He volumizes back up. And then we're getting, we're getting a metabolic reaction just from all of a sudden there being a caloric surplus out of nowhere after 4 days.
Yeah, I can see that.
So he kind of indirectly loses fat that way, So he, his low end is 46 and high end is 63-ish, 64-ish.
Holy shit! What was last year comparatively? Where was he then? Because I feel like he's a decent amount. He looks much improved.
He's way bigger. If you were to compare the highs and lows from this, from last year's prepping, it's about 7 more pounds.
Really?
Of tissue, yeah. I think the reason why this prep is going great is because of the success of the off season. The off season dictates the success of pre-contest, both from, the more clay you have to work with, hopefully, and also, from a metabolic standpoint. He's put on a lot more muscle, so therefore it's easier for him to go into a caloric deficit, and at the same time, his caloric deficit has higher calories compared to last year when he has more size now, so there's more calories involved on both his lower calorie days and his higher calorie days.
Yeah. Hey, Dave, you're like a little bit off center on the screen.
Dave, get centered.
We only see like part of your face sometimes.
What is it? Okay, by the way, when that text came in, did you hear the alert, like that message? Should I shut down my alerts?
No, we didn't hear it. We didn't hear it.
Oh, you didn't? Just me.
But you're still off center though. Yeah, there you go. A little bit more.
This way or this way?
That way. Yeah. Now you're Good.
Tilt your head a little bit to the left.
And then hold it that way the whole show.
Like this.
Yeah. So
how tall is this guy? How tall is Dorian? Your competitor. How tall is he?
Oh, he's 5'9".
So he's pretty big dude.
Yeah, he's round as hell. As far as conditioning, that's why we really want the show to go off, because this is by far, obviously, his will be his best look, and I really just hope this goes off for a lot of reasons. A lot of other guys have been getting ready. These shows have been prolonged, and it's funny because this is the only show that's not actually, the date hasn't been changed. Normally, as you guys know, this is normally the very last show prior to Olympia.
Yeah.
And now it's the first show of the season.
Dude, that's crazy, man.
Yep, think about that.
That's crazy. I'm looking at.
So in a way, the show is kind of symbolic, in a way, because I feel that if this doesn't go off, think of it this way. Just real quick. So New York right now has a 2-week. You have to quarantine 2 weeks when you come in from a hot state like Arizona or California.
Okay.
Look what's going on. I hope everything mellows out soon. That's September 5th. Presumably it could clear up by then, but
yeah.
As of now, man, wow.
I just had the video up of Dorian hitting his legs in the gym. Dude, yeah, he's looking crazy. Did you just go out there? Did that already happen? You were going to go out there and train with them?
Yeah, I went out there last week.
Okay.
We did some stuff. We did some filming. We did training because Haley is getting ready for it as well, the female bodybuilding, open bodybuilding. So we did some work at their training. Armburst gym opened up a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
So it's cool to get in there, and we did legs on Sunday. So it was good. Yeah, his conditioning right now, as you can see, the glutes are. He's
in. He's looking ready, man.
I'm definitely excited. Again, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
The show goes off.
Yeah, no kidding.
You want to hold him over, that'd be the worst thing probably, or the least desirable. Just try to hold a guy over for a month or whatever after that.
Yeah, it's just exactly that's the worst part is because obviously when you get inside the red zone, 6 or 4 weeks out, things are implemented that are more aggressive,
Sure.
And then starting and stopping. There's adrenals. There's so many variables. As you guys know, there's so many moving parts, and it's delicate. So okay, cancel this one. Maybe 4 weeks from now. It's just you're dealing with so many variables in conjunction with all the moving parts, and then clusterfucks can happen. So it's like, as you said, Scott. Yeah, it's if they're going to make announce it soon.
Yeah, I would think. You'd think they would. Well, this might be wishful thinking, but you would think they would go think of the athlete and go, well, we should probably give these people if we're going to cancel it, let's cancel it a couple of weeks out at least.
Right.
Let's cancel it before they start the halo.
Well, yeah, especially before the last week, So, but I don't know if that's the thought process.
So true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't take your halo. We're canceling.
Yeah. There you go. It could be
skip loading.
That could be the newsletter. So yeah, Skip's going to be there too. That's the other thing. So the amateur portion, Skip will be competing in that. And Scott, as you can imagine, I texted Skip and I was like, "Hey Skip, I was thinking about coming down." And the first thing he said is like, "Well, it's not going to be my peak. Like I'm not trying to peak for that show." Like I think Skip would rather that I didn't go. He would rather that people didn't go to see him. Do you know what I mean?
Fly through here and we'll fly down together.
That means you got to go see him.
Yeah.
Right.
I think he would prefer that. But you know what it's like? We get really critical of ourselves is what it, when you really care about what you're doing, you do.
Of course.
You get the closer you get to a show. And that's why I've always wanted to have somebody to help me. Like, do I look good? Should I push harder? Should I not push harder? I feel like we get to that point. It's like, that's where you always hear people say like that second set of eyes. And that's the reason why, because like you get too close to your own self,
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
Skip's not critical though on himself, so you don't have to worry about that.
So, all right, I'm going to jump into our questions here. I've got a handful of topics and questions that I've gathered together, and then we have some stuff too that was posted up over at the Facebook page for Advices Radio. Okay, we're going to start out with the training question here. Upright rows. Now, upright rows, I feel like, are something that we used to do a lot of years back. I don't see a lot of people doing upright rows anymore.
It's a great movement.
Okay, well, thoughts on upright rows for shoulder development? Dave Kalick.
Yeah, I mean, like, if it's great. I mean, basically, his rule of thumb, no pun intended, but if your thumbs are closer together, you're going to go more upright. It's going to be more for traps. If you're wider and you're going more to the front, it's going to be more for anterior delt. I mean, it's a great movement. If you have, the only problem is if you have AC joint issues, it's going to irritate the hell out of them. But I mean, it's not unlike, doing a military press behind the back, behind the head. I mean, it's an amazing movement. It's just, if you have issues with AC joints or rotator stuff, it can be, obviously bothersome, but it's a great movement.
Scott?
Yeah. I used to do them religiously until I tore my labrum the second time. And then I could get away with them if they were pretty wide and I kept my thumbs rolled up under the bar. And I always used to use the easy bar, the preset easy bars.
Right.
That went up to like 150 and burn through those. But once I jacked my shoulder up, I had to get away from them.
Yep. Yeah. Same thing.
I've heard people talk about that holding the bar wider, as in further apart, is the answer on that.
Yeah.
And roll your thumbs under the bar.
Your labrum is torn, or supraspinatus, infraspinatus, that close grip is gonna can't do it.
Okay. So wide grip, thumbs under, you're saying, Scott?
If I do them that way, wide to hit deltoids more. But if you want to get your traps, you can come in narrow and you can just run your thumbs right down the easy bar line.
Exactly.
Like that.
Yeah.
And you can actually point straight up almost with your thumbs when you bring the easy bar up.
Okay.
Huh. You can't go as much weight, but but if you have shoulder issues, none of it's going to feel good.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I found, for me, that's one of those movements that, like, the time I mainly do them, and maybe I should work them back in because I don't have like a big variety in my shoulder exercises. I've done them like to pump up at a show because I feel like I get the traps, I feel like I get the biceps, I feel like I get the delts, like all that stuff that's showing, like that gets really pumped up. Every time I do that exercise, like I look good when I'm done with it.
You get some medial delts in there as well. I mean, if your elbows are positioned correctly,
Yeah. You ever do those, or see John Meadows do those things they call 6 ways? I can demonstrate it right now. You do like this will be for the video people. So you start down here, and you bring the weight. What is it? Up. What is it? How's it? Oh, you do lateral raises, and then you bring your hands this way, and then you go up, and then you come back down, and like you can do that. I used to do them. Shelby showed me how to do those. And you could use, like, at the end of a workout, 2.5 pound plates, and you do 20 reps. And I swear to God, like 2 sets of 20 reps, you will destroy everything in your delt. And that last piece, that up and then back down, that's like all front delt. Like it's ridiculous, the pump you get from those. You ever do those, Dave?
Yeah, years ago. I mean, it definitely, like, especially as you said, the anterior delt right there in the front.
Yeah.
It's like, especially like everything's pre-exhausted from the other training prior to that. So
yeah,
your anterior delt, posterior delt, medial delt's all fried from the training. And then, as you said, you can use a very light weight and just pump the fuck out of your delts that way afterwards.
And I found too, one of the things for me is if I do if I do just like a front delt raise straight up from the side of my body, then I end up irritating my bicep tendon. Like it just really pulls. Mm-hmm. But if I go from here to here, it doesn't. So it works for me. That one works. There's no question.
Well, I think we all have jacked up shoulders, so everyone's got something that works for them and something that doesn't work for the next guy.
Yeah. What about rear delts? Lay your philosophy on me, guys, for rear delts. Either of you are welcome to jump in.
I mean, a lot of people need to train them first.
Yeah.
Most honestly, like a lot of people, I like the pec deck where you're facing inward, and the idea is keeping your elbows high. And the thing is this too, is that with any shoulder movements, I believe, like let's say for medial delts, the first 10 or 12 inches off your hip is supraspinatus, infraspinatus. So if you start where your medial delt is already engaged, and then there's a controlled negative, and then you come down to the 10 or 12 inches, that's the starting point. And the same thing, your rear delts, your posterior delts. So if you start with the pec deck and your hands are close, you don't have to start with your hands all the way together. Start where your posterior delt's already engaged. And then, keep your chest high and click back, push back. But the starting point is, again, just maybe 12 inches apart, your hands. So your posterior delt's already engaged.
Okay.
And then the problem is that people, when they go to failure, they start lowering the elbow. The idea is to keep your elbow high. And that's how you're going to keep that posterior, your posterior delt engaged.
What are you going to activate if you lower your elbow?
I think you're going to start borrowing from your medial delt.
Okay, yeah.
Possibly in your triceps too, I think.
A lot of pressure on your rotator cuffs too.
Oh, for sure. Exactly.
Yeah.
Then you start utilizing your triceps. You don't realize you're trying to extend your arm out and stuff. But if you keep your elbow high, you're keeping that engaged, posterior wise.
Okay, I've seen too where people will they'll kind of like pinch their traps together. You know what I mean? Like when they're doing rear delts, instead of just bringing their arms around, it starts becoming like a pinch the back together movement. Because I think for a lot of people have stronger traps, or a lot of people will try to use their traps, especially if they don't know as much of what they're doing, to do any type of movement.
The only problem with that, I think, is that you can actually just start using, you're using rhomboids and your traps.
Okay, yeah, I could see that. Yeah,
I'll tell you one that was good is do seated cable pull downs, but take the widest bar you can get. Put your hands real wide, lean back about 30 degrees, and bring the cable right to your forehead and hold it for a second.
Yeah.
And then don't extend all the way back out, just 3/4 of the way. And it takes your rhomboids and your traps completely out of it. But you have to get the right angle. You can't be too upright. You can't be too flat.
Yeah.
So, about 30 degrees or so.
That's one that I learned that from my first coach, Rick Wetmore, and it took me like a month plus of figuring that out. Like I just couldn't get it. Every time I did it, I was doing like a pull down basically. But once it clicked, I've always been able to do it since then. But it took me a little bit to figure that one out.
Yeah. It's one where you can be an inch too far forward or too far back, or you put too much weight on. That's another problem. Yeah. And you're getting rocked around.
You get that one right, Scott. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I like that one. It doesn't hurt my shoulders either. So.
All right, I got one for you, Scott, because I feel like this is kind of more powerlifting focused. Sore lats from chest training. Is this a thing?
Yeah. Chest training is a pretty general statement, but you can get sore lats. I'll tell you what, get you some sore lats is use a slingshot when you bench press.
Yeah.
And you can get some sore lats.
Yeah.
Your lats are engaging in the bench press when you come out of the hold. And depending on your form and how you wedge your body, they could be more engaged than you think. The guys that I used to lift with, the guys that are like top, world-class bench pressers, they do a lot of lat work.
Yeah.
They do a lot of lat pull downs when they do like their fast twitch day, their high rep day, their volume stuff. Yeah. Because then they get into also the wider your back is, the more you can wedge into the bench.
Oh yeah.
The thicker and wider your back is. But I've had sore lats from chest day, but it's been on like a lot of slingshots, and a lot of bench.
How about you, Dave? I feel like for me, because I know a lot of people have said this, and that's why I said, like, I know that a lot of power lifters, well, they're going to engage everything. I feel like for me, I'm really focusing on making it specifically incline dumbbell press. That's like my jam, and I'm trying to get the best at it as I can. But when I lift, I know that like my elbows are out really wide when I press, and I know that the way I'm engaging, it's like my lats feel like they're shut off almost.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is like, I mean, Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, a lot of guys who, especially I think, that are very anterior delt dominant, taking over. If you're not high enough, you're going to use your lats for stabilization out of the hole, as Scott's saying, and you're also going to. I mean, first of all, too, like if you're doing a controlled press, if you're controlling the negative on the way down, it's going to take your lats to stabilize you as well, right, Scott?
Yeah, especially if you wedge a lot.
Yeah.
If you're wedged in deep.
Right.
Go ahead.
No, so I mean, Scott, do you pre-exhaust?
Me?
Do you do like, let's say a pec deck?
I almost always do. I'll do a pec deck and then a press.
Yeah, I mean, so make sure there's enough of an arch. Make sure your elbows are back enough so you're not,
Yeah.
You can take out your lats a little bit and your anterior delt by getting that. But yeah, I mean, the lats are, Scott, they're very explosive for you when you're pushing out of the hole, right?
Yeah, I think most guys that don't have problems out of the hole, and I never did, have pretty strong backs. Pretty thick lats. But like I've seen Scott McNally, I've seen you, on your videos where you bench with a pretty flat back.
Yeah.
So you probably don't activate your lats a ton, and I think it's critical that you have a good back. If you want to be a competitive bench presser, you got to have a good back.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that before, but obviously that's out of my wheelhouse. Yeah, I never thought about my back, but I never thought about arching it either. I mean, I see the power lifters like I saw some chick in the gym yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday, who is like doing that whole powerlifting arch where her back is literally, 5 inches, 6 inches off of the bench.
Yeah, some people like that. I never liked getting that arch, but I mean, I can take somebody that's they can bench 250 and they don't have the greatest, they're pretty much flat regular gym form, and probably just in 15 or 20 minutes of changing their form, put 25 or 30 pounds on their bench. Especially if you get them a good bench, or, a soft padded, a real powerlifting bench like Texas Power Benches or something like that. Not these things they have at the gyms, the commercial gyms. Yeah. You can make a big difference in someone's just changing their form, put 25, 30 pounds on there.
All right. I'm going to go to a question that just popped up in the live feed. How to deal with a partially torn tricep muscle belly? Supplements?
I mean, Scott can answer this visually or cosmetic. I mean, cosmetically or just repairing or.
I think he's trying to talk about repairing.
Growth hormone. Dude, here's the thing. I've torn my bicep twice. Some other stuff. You got to be patient too, and a lot of people they get really impatient, and it's counterproductive, especially with triceps. I mean, something like that. It's like a bicep tear. I mean, it's kind of a small muscle, but it can be real sensitive. And think about it, they're on your arms. You do everything with your arms. So, I mean, the last time I tore my bicep, I think I took about 2 months off maybe after they fixed it. And I started out with like 0 on the cable curl. So like that little, it's not even the plate on the top with the little cables, and just started out with like 10 reps and then did 2 sets of 10 and then just worked my way up. You got to be real careful because, once you tear biceps or triceps, especially, you're pretty susceptible to tear them again.
Yeah.
The way I've heard it is that, it's like take a piece of paper and rip it a little bit. Once that's there, if you keep messing around with that piece of paper, the only thing that's going to happen is it's just going to keep tearing.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's patience, and a lot of people don't have patience.
How about I would suggest another one I'll throw in there is BPC 157. I found that for minor tweaks that it's been really beneficial for me. In fact, just general inflammation. I recently just used it. I trained legs pretty intensely, and I ended up straining my hip flexor a little bit. It was to the point where like I couldn't lift my leg up to put my socks on. Like it hurt too bad, and it was like the kind of thing where my leg was so sore, but that as everything was getting better, that didn't get better, and it was overtaxed is really what it came down to. I just pushed it too hard. I had gone really heavy on the leg press is what it was. But I used BPC and it fixed it within a short period of time. Like I know that it because I've had this kind of thing before, and it dramatically shortened the time that it took to recover. Same with like my bicep tendon.
That was your knee that gave you issues?
No, it was it was like up in my hip flexor.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You guys, what's the peptide that encourages synovial fluid build up in the joint again? Which one is that one?
I'm not sure.
I don't know. It's not the. Let me think. I have to think about that one. My brain's not that warm.
All right.
But you like that? You like that one?
That's why I forgot the name of it in the first place.
You like that 157 though, Scott? You're like 157 man.
Yeah. Well, because sometimes on the show, Skip's not a big fan of peptides, and I think it's because the peptides he had looked into were like the stuff that where you had either melanotin, which he likes, or you had ceramorelin, which was basically bullshit. You know what I mean? And it's like, this is a completely different thing. So I almost feel like I got to like preach it because it is so good.
I've heard nothing but good things about it.
Yeah. I would use it at higher doses though. I've gone now as high as 1 milligram a day in one shot. And I found it to be, pretty helpful. But I just use it for short periods too. Now it's something like I've used it for tweaks, and I'll just use it for like 4 days or 5 days. But I'm telling you, like I had told you guys on the show before, I had strained my bicep tendon here in my home gym because I wasn't used to kicking up my crappy dumbbells that I had at the time, and the bench was all rickety, and it ended up straining my bicep tendon trying to put them down. It ended up being such an issue that I was feeling pain just sitting there. Like it was beyond pain with movement. It was like just throbbing as I sat there without movement. I took one shot of 1 milligram of BPC 157, and that night, like 2 hours later before bed, the pain was gone. And of course, I still was careful with it. I didn't go like an idiot and start training hard again with it. I watched it, but I was able to get that inflammation under control. And then it never came back. It just basically healed itself. I took it for like 5 days, and then I was done. So took one vial, 5 milligram vial until it ran out at 1 milligram a day. TB 500, Matt Marshall just threw that in there. I've never used it.
500.
Yeah.
See, now Dave asked this question a minute ago, and my brain's been going on like in circles about what that peptide's called, and I can't remember it. All right. Let's forget about that question. I'll think about it for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of them does. I think the TB might actually, the 500 might be the one that does it.
TB 500 works as an anti-inflammant. I know that much.
Yeah. I don't think it's TB 500. It's
Fuck, I'm blanking on it.
Well, that's all right, guys. We're gonna move on.
Okay, let's move on.
All right. Let's see here. Optimal insulin timing and frequency for an off season. Do you think insulin alters a physique?
Yeah.
I mean,
it
could be highly productive,
Dave.
I mean, it can be highly productive. I mean, some people, there's a slippery slope. I mean, there's a fine line. It's like, you use the right amount. You give your pancreas a rest a little bit. If you abuse it and use too much of it, and you start frying out, the beta cells in your pancreas, you're going to start, lipolysis is going to happen. You're going to start losing sensitivity. It's going to work against you. When you lose sensitivity, you're screwed because you're just going to get fatter. You know, and it's a great, you know, for shuttling and stuff. But I think that, I mean, insulin's widely abused. I mean, if you're, you know, my theory is like a lot of the guys that are doing like, you know, tons of quick acting insulin going into the workout and then having to stabilize blood sugar intra workout, like drinking jars of applesauce intra workout. I mean, you know, and then to me, my thing is I like using it, you know, for the window periods of post workout or in conjunction with using growth hormone in the morning. You know, like I like using Humulin R in the morning with growth hormone. If you happen to train during the window period that it's in you, because there's like, you know, Humulin R is about 6 hours. You have like kind of 2 peaks. So if you train during that 6 hour window period, you're theoretically going to have insulin going into that situation, you know, as well as having it in your system post, you know. You can use quick acting insulin post. I'm just really into either, you know, the window period post. To me, I mean, I know a lot of guys use insulin going into the workout. I think what you're going to get is an aggressive pump. And again, you know, you're having to stabilize blood sugar intra. Like, I don't think it's necessarily productive to have, you know, glucose or other types of, you know, uptake, you know, intra workout. I think branched chain amino acids are fine, but I think you shouldn't be trying to stabilize blood sugar intra workout. I think I like using insulin, you know, post workout in that window period. And I think it's, you know, there's no need to use, you know, 40 units a day. I mean, I think you can use insulin over with lower IU protocol over a longer period of time. You don't lose sensitivity, and it's you know, productive. I think if you start, you know, like if you start with 30 units a day, where do you go from there? You know?
Yeah.
And you do have, you know, there's another hormone. I got news for you. There's a hormone, glucagon, that lowers insulin. And if you high amounts of glucagon, that's how you fry out the beta cells in your pancreas, and then you're fucked. You lost sensitivity
for life.
Yeah, exactly. You will get fatter from the insulin. And then keep in mind too, if you lose sensitivity, then there's less IGF acknowledgement in muscle cells, and you're really not going to grow. And stubborn fat loss, stubborn visceral fat loss. I mean, I like insulin. I just don't like these protocols that are just, you know, using Lantus, and, you know, the longest one I would use would be Humulin R. You know, I just don't know about the Lantus, the long duration. And, you know, again, I think if you're going to use too much of fast acting insulin, you know, repetitively over and over and over again, pre-workout, post-workout, I think you're going to lose that sensitivity very quickly.
What do you think about, like, where should your body fat be at to even consider using insulin? Like, how is there a level where you're like, you would stop?
I mean, there's people who are they're born glucose intolerant, you know? I mean, there's people who, like, if you have a really high A1C, like, if you can't get your blood sugar under control just normally, I mean, keep in mind, let's just think about growth hormone. You know, it's like, well, this kind of goes into one of the questions, you know, is growth hormone, if you have carbs, you know, around the time you take growth hormone. I mean, the growth hormone is going to work in terms of IGF production, all that stuff, with or without carbs, you know. But I mean, as far as, you know, if you have carbs, if you take a shot of growth hormone, you have carbs right afterwards, you know, the lipolysis is not going to happen. You're going to become like, you know, you're going to have lipogenesis is going to happen. You're going to start storing fat. So, you know, roundabout, if you're starting off and you're glucose intolerant and you're kind of fat to begin with, I'm not recommending you use insulin.
Okay. You
know, especially these people who they lose sensitivity, they become almost borderline type 2 diabetic from using growth hormone. I mean, if you're using growth hormone and you're having a high A1Cs, whatever, I mean, after a while, the insulin would kind of counteract that, but then I think you're going to be a good candidate for losing sensitivity very fast.
All right. Yeah. Legit question. I've been training after about 2 meals. I take 3 units of growth, and usually I've been taking it right before I train. I can move that around, but I'm not using any insulin now. Would you say that I'm in a place, Dave, where I could, would I be in a good position to use that? Or would you think, yeah, it doesn't matter, keep doing what you're doing?
I mean, you know, considering where your mass index is, you don't strike me as being very glucose intolerant. I think right now it would probably be kind of cool to implement a post
workout.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. When I had used it in the past, I went to pre, and then I was shoveling down a lot of carbs while I trained.
Yeah, I'm not. That's what I mean, some people. I'm just really not about. I mean, to me, you train. Call me like 101, right? Calling it very like kind of caveman like, but it's like you train to stimulate, and then there's a post workout window period to shuttle and to message.
Yeah.
And I think you want to, stimulate during the training, and have your GI tract void of shoving down tons of intra stuff, except for BCAAs, maybe a little bit of a glucose. But this whole idea of like, okay, well, I just took 10 units of, Humalog, so now I have to have at least 100 grams of glucose or whatever circulating in my gut during training. I just,
yeah,
I never liked
you're
that.
better off. Go ahead, Dave, Scott.
I never liked that theory. I tried the pre. I don't like to drink shit when I'm working out anyway.
Yes.
So that's when I started messing around with the post workout stuff and the IGF and different things.
Yeah.
And I think I can say this is where I got myself in trouble was when I started using it a lot, like every meal.
Right.
And I would say Atlantis was probably the straw that broke the camel's back on that deal. Yep. And you get to a point where it's like, okay, you stay on it long enough and you're using 30 IUs a day. I wasn't using that many, but there's people that use that much or more. And then all of a sudden, where do you go from there? You're diabetic.
Exactly. So exactly, like to Scott's point, I mean, honestly, people laugh like, oh, how much, I'm like, if you're using Humulin R in the morning, think about it. Like if you use insulin with your GH, you're going to get more of an aggressive your liver's going to turn more of it, and you're going to have IGF, a big, nice punch of it. I just, rather than like, exactly, 30 units, where do you go from there? I mean, just by doing like, I have my guys do like 6 or 7 IUs at the most of Humulin R in the morning. And then if they use something post-workout, it would be like 8 to 10 IUs of Humalog. And honestly, like that's it.
Yeah.
And I find that you can get tons of productivity for a very long duration of time without losing that sensitivity. I don't know the analogy. You use too much of it, right? You're going to burn. You're going to reap less and less. You're going to become type 2, and you're going to be fat, and you're going to have stubborn visceral fat, and you're fucked. You lose that sensitivity. You're done. That's why you see a lot of these guys, a lot of bodybuilders, after a while, like all of a sudden they just peak, and then they're not really like getting in shape anymore at these shows, and they're not building anymore. I think it's so much of that has to do with that lack of sensitivity, or that loss of sensitivity from these dynamically huge protocols of insulin and chasing tons of sugar into work. I think you're gonna fuck yourself.
All right. So how about okay, so you said can't get in shape. What about using insulin during a prep?
Sometimes it's very productive. I think it's great when sometimes, if you're really lean and let's say there's a high carb day scheduled, using insulin that day is great because you're going to get messaging and stuff. And I seem to get like he's almost like a cool metabolic reaction from it too. You kind of give your pancreas a break for that one high carb day, and you then can shuttle, repair, whatever, and get right back to it.
Okay. Yeah.
I think, I will have, there's times with the right athlete and with the right sensitivity that's already there. Insulin on some days, on high carb days, whatever, during prep can be very beneficial. Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
And that's where I see it as more of a better tool, to use isolated. I know a friend of mine that, he was using it as his primary performance enhancing drug to grow, and he was taking a ton of it, and he's had problems ever since. And I think you just anecdotally and from seeing other people, if you use it sparingly as a certain tool to shuttle, during those phases, like especially if you're doing a carb cycle or 4 or 5 days of very low or no carbs and you're loading heavy, it's perfect, and you're not going to have any health problems after it.
Right.
But you start dicking around with that stuff, it'll bury you.
It's true. I mean, Scott, to your point, you're low for 4 days. You're going to have great sensitivity going into that. That's how it's used. That's how I can't phrase it any better. That's exactly, you should use it, but people all I could say is stay ahead of the loss of sensitivity. Use it sparingly. It's a good tool. Use it sparingly. God, I hate these analogies. Use it as a tool, not a crutch. It should not be the meat and potatoes of getting bigger.
Gotcha.
I'd say one of the biggest things is if you're using it, regardless of the amount, when you stop using it, if you start having a lot of blood sugar problems and they don't go away, I'm talking for weeks and a month, 2 months, and you're constantly battling, going hypo and all that. And your blood sugar levels are not stable in the morning. They're all over the place. Then that tells you right there that you overrode the line.
Yeah, you fucked off your pancreas, and you burned out your beta cells in your pancreas, and all the glucagon in the world won't be able to lower your blood sugar. That's correct.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm going to jump in to shout out our great sponsors, and then we will get right back to the show. Also, I hope everybody's doing good. I hope if you're back in the gym grinding, more power to you. If you're still locked down, my heart is with you. And no matter where you're at, I hope everybody's being safe and that everybody is healthy right now. All right, so TrueNutrition.com. I've got an A, a B, and a C, and then we will cut out of that. So A, they are owned by Dante Trudell, one of the most honest people in our industry. Plus, the products are all third-party tested. So you're getting a high-quality supplement. B, fantastic pricing. I mean, you're getting wholesale pricing, and then on top of that, if you're to order a protein powder, let's say you order 5 pounds, they add the flavoring after they measure out the protein. So you're really getting close to 6 pounds. You're not going to get 6 pounds of product from Dymatize. If you order 5 pounds, you get 5 pounds of product, period. That's just the way that it goes. And then C, they've partnered with us. So here's the deal. You buy stuff that you would have bought anyway, say their protein powder or fish oil, possibly, or maybe a performance supplement like the Abolic or the highly branched cyclic dextrin, the Mountain Dog formula, Peri MD. Any of the stuff that you would have bought anyway, if you buy it from True Nutrition and you use our code ADVICES, then it helps to support our programming. And I can keep the lights on here and I can keep podcasting. And I laugh, but that's dead serious. So TrueNutrition.com, use our code ADVICES to buy stuff that you would have bought anyway and support the programming. Okay, so I'm going to move on to Azoth. GetAzoth.com. Oh, somebody recently asked, how do you spell Azoth? It's AZOTH. I guess this stuff wasn't in the description in the iTunes, but it should have been. So hopefully we've got it all sorted out and it is there now. But Azoth, so this is a fantastic nootropic product. I've been using Azoth now since the jump, since they started. They're on Azoth 2.0 now. And they also have a couple other products that contain Zynamite, which is a dopamine reuptake inhibitor. What does dopamine do? Dopamine is that thing that makes you want more, to get more, to try harder, to dive in. It's basically, aggression isn't the right word, but it's that like go-to-itness that gives you that drive to get things done, and it keeps you on task. So this is basically what nootropics are there to do. They're there to kind of like keep you calm and ready and excited to do what you're going to do, and then to keep you on task, keep you focused, keep you sharp. That's going to sum up what Azoth is. So check their stuff out. You can go to getazoth.com, AZOTH, or go to the Amazon link in our notes. Either place, you can use our code ADVICES10 if you want to improve your edge in life. And as they say, quote, get shit done. Check them out and let me know what you think. All right, guys, let's get back to the program. Thanks for listening to me. All right. I'm going to go on to that topic that Dave had mentioned. We got some questions about growth hormone. Figure it'd be a good time to tie him in right here. This is from Walter. He posted this over at the Advices Radio group. If you guys haven't joined, head on over. We ask questions, we take questions for the shows over there, and all of that. Okay. Walter says, so I've heard the carbohydrates blunt the effects of growth hormone. That's why it's said that it's best to not eat carbs an hour on both ends of taking it. So I have a few questions. Does this apply to naturally occurring GH and exogenous GH2, or just naturally, whereas exogenous doesn't suffer from blunting effects on carbs? Okay, well, I'll just stop there. He's got some more questions.
I mean, as far as the natural one, you're not going to really have much of a kick. If you wake up in the morning and have a big bowl of, Captain Crunch, you're not going to have a really good morning GH pulse, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's a little bit of a chicken and the egg there, because your natural GH releases during, times of stress, during times of, in between meals, sleep patterns, kick it off, or first thing in the morning. I mean, as far as using it, like you're going to blunt fat loss. You'll blunt lipolysis if you have carbs. If you take a shot and you have carbs right away, the GH is going to work as far as like the muscle growth, the volumization, the IGF response, all that stuff. But as far as the fat loss, yeah, if you have carbs right around it, you would interfere with that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Does fat and protein cause the same blunting? Can I eat fats and peanut butter and protein around GH? I mean, anything's going to spike your insulin to some extent.
Well, I mean, if you like too much arginine is going to spike your insulin. You know what I mean? If you have a bunch of saturated fats, you can indirectly have an insulin spike from saturated fats.
I'd say the only time fat could be problematic is if you're on an extremely high fat diet with no carbs.
Oh, yeah.
And so your body, you're using, you're using that conversion of fat to fill your glucose stores and stuff. Now I think that's the only place you could see an issue. And I don't know that for sure, but it would make sense.
Yeah. Like if you're exactly right. I mean, if you after a while, your body will make glucose, it makes that protein, it's gluconeogenesis. And as Scott's saying, if you're just keto, your body will eventually you'll translate from fats to carbs. And there's that gluconeogenic thing that he's talking about but you would have to have, as he was saying, very high, just pure tons of just junky fat, I think.
Yeah.
You'd have to be you'd have to have a really high fat diet.
Yeah.
All right. Now if you're not focusing on fat loss, then this isn't really an issue, right? Like this is only if you were dieting, really.
Yeah.
True. And keep in mind, like, the idea is that if you're trying to get bigger, let's say there is insulin used, there's growth hormone, there's insulin, and then there's going to be a definite density of carbs in that window period. Yeah. After that insulin shot of growth hormone anyway. So
yeah. So then in that case, it's not as big of an issue it's not going to stop. I guess that's the thing. And you did kind of say that, but I want to make sure he understands that like you had said, the growth hormone is still going to work. It's not like it renders it, useless or something.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's going to work in terms of the volumizing and everything that growth hormone does. But long story short, the only thing it'll impede would be, the fat loss.
Okay. I know that for me to be safe with that, I would do my cardio or some of my cardio fasted, and I would take it, wake up in the morning, take the growth.
Oh, no matter, even like, honestly, that's just the best time anyway. No matter what, taking growth hormone fasted, you're going to utilize it better anyway.
Yeah. And then cardio too, for me at least. I know that I've heard it said that maybe not everybody is going to make the best progress. Like for some people, it'll work better than other, but for me, fasted cardio, and a lot of people I've worked with, it seems like fasted cardio seems to work pretty well.
There's no doubt.
What's cardio?
What's cardio?
All right. And his third question, can you grow on 2 units of pharmaceutical growth hormone? Or let's just say a good generic, because I feel like I've had good generics that are just as good as farm grade. So
yeah.
Scott? Yeah, so okay. Questions like this are so impossible to answer because I would have to take you and train you for a year, not on 2 units of growth hormone a day, and then we'd have to repeat the process with 2, and then compare the results, and then do that every other year. I think I'm a big fan of that low grade, 2 or 3 IUs every other day, keep your IGF levels up. It works great for the old guys, all the yoked old guys are doing it. And, but I don't think there's a really, I don't think if you did it 2 IUs a day or you didn't, you'd really know the difference in muscle,
right,
in the muscle you put on, as long as you did everything else the same.
Yeah. You could take someone on before I use a farm grade, and they're not busting their ass in the gym, they're not eating correctly, and you could take someone who's just an animal in the gym, who's training their ass off, eating enough, that person will grow more and respond better, than the person using, the growth on myself. So yeah, I mean.
Yeah, I think this is why the big GH days have kind of flown the coop, because people have realized that it's just not the bang for the buck. You're not getting what you think you're getting out of it. So I just say take 2 or 3 every other day and stay on it forever.
Yeah, I remember when everybody on the boards was doing like 10. Not everybody, 20. But there were a lot. Yeah, there were guys that were doing 20. You're right. That's nuts, man.
Yeah. Well, just like insulin, too much of growth hormone, you're going to ironically run into the same problems.
Yep.
Yeah.
Blood sugar.
All right. Let's see here. What else do we have? I know we had a bunch of questions left. Here's one we haven't really covered a lot.
We got to get into that T&E question.
Yeah. That's what I was just looking at. The best way to run test no ester, T&E.
Okay.
What's a good protocol?
So here's the deal. I'm not all these like test no ester, test no ester, trend no ester. Okay, these are like basically. I mean, you might as well just use check drops, which is basically like check drops are basically is nandrolone no ester.
Is that what that is? I never knew much about.
It is, yeah. So
no
basically,
kidding.
Okay, so these no ester drugs. Okay, we're just all it is it's an androgen that's going to get in your system really quickly and leave your system quickly. You can't build any muscle on these no ester steroids. There's not a long enough half-life. There's no receptor binding because of the lack of duration of the half-life. So if you take test no ester, check drops, trend no ester, you're going to be angry, irritated, have your blood pressure come up, have a good pump in the gym, and it'll dissipate.
No. What about this? I'll challenge you. I'm playing devil's advocate, basically.
All right.
What if I take check drops or test no ester, trend no ester? Just gives me nightmares thinking about that.
Check drops.
What if I go to the gym and then I lift substantially heavier every time I train?
No, I mean, okay, so from a strength standpoint, or like if you want to bite someone's ear off in the case of check drops, Mike Tyson, Van Holyfield, whatever, of course, it can make you aggressive and strong, but I mean, honestly, if you're focused on trying to get bigger, I think you can raise enough intensity to mechanically move a weight from point A to point B with more reps or more weight, with or without a non-estered steroid.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know that's not a very sexy answer, but I think people really okay, powerlifting, training, whatever, but I just think I don't know, drink a fucking cup of coffee before or good. I don't know. I'm just really not into these no estered stuff. People are like,
the problem is that most people that are into them weren't around when suspension was around.
Right.
And so when the suspension was the thing, well, how many, 4 or 5 times a day you had to inject it.
God.
Because, you're like crash and burn, man. And the no ester stuff is, I think the acronym just sounded cool, and they figured we'd just start selling it, it's true. Unless you just want some psychological, just take some Adderall or something before you train.
Right. That's what I'm saying, man. Or a good, strong cup of coffee. Ready for this to the listener? There's no top bodybuilders who are using this. There's no Olympia competitors okay, I'm going to take a shot of test no ester before it's just not happening. As Scott said, on paper it's sexy, blah blah blah, but it's just one of these things where it's just you strength and aggression. You will not build any muscle using any of these compounds. I don't care how many times a day you inject it.
All right.
I thought that are they still popular, the T&Es and all that? I mean, is it still? I thought they kind of died, or they were popular, 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah, they were popular. I used it before, and I definitely got a boost from it in the gym, but I don't think,
no doubt.
I don't think I got any kind of growth from it, though.
You won't build any muscle from it.
All right. Let's see. So go off completely, Palumbo style, or TRT for your clients?
TRT. Well, that's dependent on. I shouldn't have said it that fast, because I'd say if it was somebody that was wanting to do one short cycle a year, maybe come off. Yeah. But outside of that, I mean, if you're going to spend 4 or more months on gear a year, you just stay on TRT.
Yeah, I mean, like the whole idea of like when you're off, be off. But rather than like forcing your hypothalamus into making luteinizing hormone, why not just replace what your body would produce in the first place?
What about, is there an age factor in there? What if this guy is like,
Yeah, like
23?
I mean, like, okay, well, first of all, what Scott's saying, if you're just gonna do like your one little like cycle for the year, like I mean, I could see maybe coming off and trying to going the ACG Clomid route, but again, I'm so against forcing your hypothalamus into making luteinizing hormone. Again, just replace what you're normally produce. But if you're like in your 20s, whatever, I mean, like there could be some advantage. But I just, again, even then, just like when you're off cycle, you're off, you take replacement testosterone, and then when you're on, you're on. And one question, I don't know if this kind of segues into it. I think one of the listeners said, well, what's a good steroid to accompany your TRT? Wasn't that one of the questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Something that would be like low side effect.
Yeah, I mean, but if the idea of your off cycle, your TRT is because you're off cycle.
I think this guy though was saying like he just wants to run his TRT and then that would be his cycle.
Well, then, I mean, if anything, use 20 milligrams of anabar a day to uncouple more free testosterone.
Yeah.
Proviron, whatever.
I mean, exactly. Some type of DHE derivative.
It always blows my mind when people talk about TRT and then they start talking about adding all this stuff to it. TRT is testosterone replacement therapy.
I think knowing this guy though, what he was saying is that he wasn't like gonna do a cycle ever. He was just like that was gonna be his cycle. Like what would be something low side effect to add. I think that's what he was saying.
Let me ask you guys: is TRT a cycle? I mean, if
life cycle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, use 20 milligrams of Proviron or Anavar to theoretically, uncouple more and make more free testosterone.
I'll say something else. I'll say something low side effect. How about definitely Anavar. I wouldn't say Proviron because I don't feel like you're gonna get. I mean, maybe you do get more free test with it, but I feel like you would get more out of 50 Anavar than you would growth-wise, strength-wise. And that would be like a way you could add that to do like a little, and I mean, I guess you could call that, I think he was saying like a cycle basically. Let's see if I can find the question here, but he was basically saying, here it is. What's a steroid that complements TRT without hurting your blood pressure too badly? Okay. So he wants to stay on his TRT dose of test and then add something on top of that for a while without getting blood pressure issues. That's what it was.
Maybe don't eat tons and tons of junk food and make sure you're not having blood pressure issues to begin with. Your sodium levels not cranked out of crazy, and you're not hypotensive genetically to begin with. I don't know.
Yeah. So basically,
do cardio.
Yeah.
Do some cardio. Maybe
200 milligrams a week. Even I just had my labs done. I was 1154.
Really? Wow.
Mm. And so I mean that's about normal for me. My free testosterone was like I forget 600, almost 600, 575. Estradiol was 52 or 1. I'll tell you what I was doing. I was taking too much Arimidex because I got this feeling that I was like mine was too high for some reason for a while, and I kind of overdid it the other direction. So I actually have backed way off of it. Yeah. Those labs really help. When you get labs, you can actually see what's going on.
Yeah.
Yep. I recommend for people if they want to kind of control estradiol on TRT. The idea is that you take a milligram of Arimidex 12 hours after you take the testosterone, because theoretically, like the half-life really starts to peak at 12 hours after post-injection. And if you introduce the Arimidex then you're going to offset the estradiol development without having to continuously it's funny, a lot of these guys will do TRT, but then they're doing 3 or 4 milligrams of Arimidex a week. If you get your estradiol too low, then
yeah,
that's not good either.
Yeah, I mean I was trying to do it by feel for a while. Yeah. And even after I've been on TRT for 20 years, my feel gauges weren't that good.
Right.
And So, yeah, I thought 1154 was pretty good.
That's great, man.
Excellent. And it's $550 to $600 on your free. That's excellent.
Yeah. You know what's funny is my free's always been high.
Yeah.
I've always had, I've never, I've seen a lot of blood work and seen guys that are at, 1,500, 1,600 and their free's like 200 or 150 or whatever. Yep. Even when their ester valve's not that high. Mine's always been high. Must be my good looks. I don't know. That's what I'm thinking.
All right. Let's see here.
It's not easy being strikingly handsome, I can attest.
Yep.
Someone asked, what exercises can I do with 2 resistance bands? I'm going to tell him to go to John Meadows' YouTube page, because John has all sorts of videos on doing like at-home workouts that are really good. Any lifts that you think a 40-plus-year-old should at least consider avoiding in general, or avoiding as general guidance for longevity?
Scott?
I mean, okay, if you have prior, this would be based too off of some prior, injuries and stuff. But, I think when you start getting up there, I'm not saying you can have to totally avoid pulling deads or, rows or squat. Some people with squats when they get a little older, but I mean, if you're going to do some of those compound movements that are generally for heavier movements, like pulling deads, you need to be careful, warm up. You need to back off the weight. Don't try to get crazy. I think bent over rows is one that, especially barbell rows, is one that can really jack you up when you get older.
Yeah.
You got to be careful with that one. But pulling deads, you got to watch your form. I mean, I think the worst ever hurt my back was in a leg sled. Let my hips come off the pad.
Oh God, yeah.
A couple times, and it was not pretty. So I don't think there's anything you have to avoid, but you have to be. I think you got to be smart, make good choices. What you're doing.
I was training with a guy who is I met him through the podcast. He listens to our shows. He's local here. We trained legs, and I watched him. He was coming down so low on the leg press that his butt would curl up off the pad every rep. I was like, oh man. I told him I was like, I don't know if you should do that. I don't think that's a good idea. I told him that's how I hurt my back pretty bad doing that too.
That'll bury you. You do that enough.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's see. What about squats? I feel like a lot of older guys don't do squats anymore.
I don't think a lot of people do squats anymore.
That's a good point.
The squat rack's pretty empty in most gyms.
Yeah.
Yeah, and unless you curl in the squat rack.
All right. Another training question here. How about talk about priming your quad training? Do you do any kind of what do you think about pre-fatiguing, Dave? Is there ever a case where you have your guys do that? Yeah.
I'm huge on that. I'll go to the point where I'll have people go on the stationary bike for 6 or 7 minutes first.
Really? Okay. Yeah.
And then leg extensions and then leg curls, and actually calves and everything, like starting off first and then squatting. Huh. I think, Scott can attest, people will find any excuse in the world not to squat. Call us old fashioned, but shut up and squat. There's just nothing that mimics that movement. And but you have to go into it prepared. I'm not saying some people wrap on 135. I think that's extreme, but
yeah.
You want to be connective tissue ready for it. Some people definitely need extended warm ups, and some people need to get their knees more. I mean, that connective tissue, you want it pliable. As a cold rubber band tears easily. I think pre-exhaustion and warming up, and with again, people sometimes stretch when they're cold too. That's obviously counterproductive. You need to prime. I think pre-exhausting, just from the fact that you want to just, instead of just, you want to eliminate hip flexors or knees when you're leg press, when you're squatting. So if you pre-exhaust your legs, you're going to use more quad. Less hamstring and glute, less hip flexor. So from that standpoint, but just from a knee, the integrity of your knee, some people really do need prolonged warm-ups, like warming up on the bike, whatever, extensions, leg curls.
We looked at Dorian's video today, Dorian Haywood's leg video. What does his leg training look like? I mean, because he's got ridiculous legs. So, like, basically, I'm asking you, lay it on us. For a guy that has legs like him, what does it take?
Yeah. I put him through a leg workout last week. For example, I mean, squatting was, of course, his bread and butter. So, but for example, last week we didn't squat, but we did, extensions, curls, calves, everything. We went to leg press. We did ascending sets. So in other words, the first set was like 4 plates on each side. I had him do 20 reps. Right away, I put a plate on each side. I just had him rack the weight, plate on each side. Had him do 15 reps. Had another plate to each side. Had him do 12 reps. That ascending set is his warm-up set.
Yeah.
And then we started adding plates, where then we started controlled negative on the way down. Explosive without locking out of the knee. Controlled negative on the descent. We worked up to, we pyramided up, and then we had one long strip set. We then went to the I-carrying hack squat. Started off with a couple plates, went up, 6 or 7 plates, large drop set. And with every rep, though, there's a controlled negative where when he's leg pressing or hack squatting, the depth is all the way down. We're coming maybe 80% of the way up. As soon as we're 80% of the way up, we start the controlled negative.
Yeah.
We're not resting on the knees, snapping out. I mean, there's people who move tons and tons of weight, but they're just using momentum and snapping out, resting on the knees, and then, just bouncing down. And so there's different types of strength, controlling the negative and being explosive without locking out, and using progressive overload with either more reps for the same weight or heavier weight with the same reps for the next time you train is going to require you to muster up more intensity to get that done.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I found that one of the things I've really been doing, and I think this has been one of the things that's helped me with the progress I've been making, is my negatives. And this goes across the board for everything. I'm more controlled and slow with my negatives than I ever have been. And getting to work with more of my clients now, like I've been having most of them, like more and more of them. I'd be curious if I don't see the progress that we want, then I'll be like, let me see what these exercises look like, And I can see it's like I'm seeing so many people that just aren't getting enough out of their negative portion of the rep. It's just, that seems like it's such a common thing.
I can't even emphasize the importance of that. I know, Scott, that's what's going to build the density to that tissue.
Yeah. I really think
like
that's true.
Yeah, the explosive stuff. If you could, like the pumping explosive stuff, you see these guys, they volumize very quickly, but they lose that density. That real fibrous looking density comes from these negatives.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was always a big negative guy.
You can't lift as much weight.
I think I did it more out of boredom years ago because it made things different. Yeah. But yeah, I like negatives.
Yeah, you can't. The thing is you can't lift as much weight. So I think that people get it in their head that they would rather go up, a dumbbell
it's
up.
It's harder.
Yeah.
It's harder.
Yeah.
And from an ego standpoint, you're not gonna have like these, let's see if everyone's looking at the gym. Willis, I load up all these 45-pound plates and fucking bounce it.
Yeah.
Ego lifting. Yeah, if you want to use negatives, as you guys were saying, you can't be an ego lifter.
Yeah. And even beside ego, if you're just like, hey, I want to get big, that means I need to lift as much weight as possible. I don't want to waste all my time on this negative. I feel like that's part of it too,
Sure. Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
It's like the guys that only do lifts they're really strong at because they're in front of people and they do them every week. But why don't you do something you're not so strong at? And I think it'll work out better in the long run.
Right.
I think, I'll admit it. I've been that way before. It's like, oh yeah, I can press, I can put 6 plates on a hammer strength incline press and knock out 12 reps. It looks really good, but then I finally realized, I'm not getting much out of this other than, hopefully not dropping the plates on the side of the hammer strength thing. So you got to do stuff you're not that great at.
Yeah.
That's why people don't like to squat, and a lot of people don't like to do barbell rows. It's sexy. You're doing a quick ass leg press or a hammer strength row compared to
Yeah.
Well, I think more people incline press than flat press because they're stronger in the incline because it naturally wedges you and they don't realize it. But, I would say more people incline press than they will flat press.
Yeah? Why is that?
Yeah. Because you're stronger in the incline.
Are you? I always thought you were weaker in the incline.
No, you're stronger because it's forcing you into that wedge position. You don't even know it's forcing you in there.
Oh, okay. Huh, okay.
I mean, and it's relevant too. So if a guy can incline 225 for 6 reps, that looks better than flat benching 225 for 8.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Okay.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah. I do
That's
the
where
incline.
the ego part comes in.
I do the incline because for me, it's the part that I have issues with is kicking the dumbbells up, that bicep tendon. So if I have to go to the flat bench, getting them in, like laying down and putting them in position is harder versus on incline, I just like pop it, you know what I mean? And then I don't have to like pull it up as much. So that's my reasoning. But I always thought guys, I thought you were stronger. I don't do both though anymore.
I think I'm talking about like relevance of the
He means
gym.
relative, like, right, Scott? Like, you could total more on the flat, but he's talking about, like,
I see. It's more. It's like more impressive if you can do it on
more
incline.
acceptable to incline 225 for 6 than flat bench.
It took me.
Rate,
I get it. I get it.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So while we're talking about pre-fatiguing, let's talk some exercises. What about for hamstrings? What would be some good stuff? What would be some good ideas for that? Like, what would that look like if you wanted to pre-exhaust your hamstrings going into a leg workout?
I'll tell you the one thing I always use for leg workouts was the step mill, the Stairmaster, where it rotates around and do about 6 minutes pretty slow and skip a step. And you will warm your legs up more than you ever thought you could.
The whole thing then, or your
hams, quads, whatever. You can switch the step, but you can go double steps if you're going more hamstring, then switch back to one step. And I used to train with a guy, and he's a pretty big dude, and that's what we used to do, was the Stairmaster, the one that rotates for 6 minutes prior to starting leg day, doing that on a slow speed, nothing fast. And your legs, your IT bands, your hips, everything just gets nice and warmed up.
Ask Kai Green. Kai Green does 30 minutes of leg, 30 minutes of step mill, followed by 30 minutes of stretching, followed by 30 minutes of abs, and then he's ready to train legs.
Yeah. I've seen him do that at Gold's.
Have you?
2 years ago.
Yeah. Man, he is so freaky. He's still so freaky today.
Yeah. I mean,
what's he up to? What's his status?
He's making a TV or a YouTube show now. He's got his own variety show. Dave, have you seen that? Did you see that variety show he put together?
That's why he's doing the thing where he's filming with the big afro wig and
yes, yeah.
I guess I love Kai, but I guess the site it's hard to unring a bell. It's hard to unsee. We all saw that last week, Scott. I know you saw it too. Both Scotts, right?
I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah.
He dressed up as Tina Turner.
You gotta love Kai though. Like, he actually, when people are always about the grape, of course they mention the grapefruit to this day still, and I think he teased, he's saying he's gonna make a supplement company. He's gonna make a supplement that's gonna, be grapefruit flavored and all that. And
does he say that?
You gotta give him credit,
That's funny, man.
It's a pretty hot grapefruit.
Man, yeah, his TV show. He's got S2H. He has a variety show that he put out on YouTube, and it's the weirdest.
He's not going to compete. He's not going to compete.
You don't think it's going to happen?
No.
Could he? From what you've seen of him, could he?
Well, the thing is, it's obviously he has a timeless physique, and you can still tell he's huge, whatever. But it's been years.
Yeah.
On paper, yes, but there's something about being out of the sequence for a couple of years, 4 years, where to get acclimated back, it doesn't always come out the way you would think.
Yeah.
And I'm sure his life's pretty busy, now.
Right.
But yeah, it's I'll probably never watch his YouTube channel, so I think I'm safe on that one right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I know we covered this one before with you, Dave, but we're going to do it again. Thoughts on SARMS. This was to me, thoughts on SARMS and have you tried them? I will say no,
Okay,
guys.
the
I
only
have not tried SARMs, and then I'll let Dave
The only
take it from
SARMs I
there.
like are the ones that have the most side effects. Okay, the S4 is the strongest.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't care what anybody says. You're going to see yellow after a couple weeks, but that is the strongest one. So there's the Austrian, which is the S22, which is a subdivision of that one. It's in the same mechanism, less vision problems, almost as strong.
Yeah.
I think the other ones are useless. I think the only ones you actually see where you're growing will be the S4 or the Austrian, the 22.
The YK. You don't like
No,
YK? No?
I don't. I just don't. I don't. I mean, call me old school, but like for example, the only IGF I like is the long R3.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just, and if you're going to use the S4, when it really works, honestly, is speaking of TRT, use it in between cycles where you're just using TRT. One thing I could say is that I've seen a couple of people where they did it. Now, it's a selective androgen receptor modulator. There's something to, I think somehow, there's something to more androgen acknowledgement when you go back on cycle after using the SARM. I can't explain how or what the mechanism, but it just seems to make the steroids be more productive after using it. I can't explain how.
It helps, and it actually expands the receptor. That's the best. I don't know if that's the best way to put it.
No, I know what you're saying. I know you're saying it's just there's more. How do we say it, Scott? There's more androgen acknowledgement,
signaling.
Yeah, there's no. I really, that's true. It's a waste of time to take during the cycle. I think you want to take it. Yeah.
I mean, being a guy that looks like me that used to be affiliated with the company that brought it on the market, basically.
Yeah, they did.
I can say that I found it. I mean, your girl's not going to like this comment, but I found it worked really well for women. We've had this debate before, Dave. You were on the show.
Austrian?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's not a
SARMS
SARMS
fan
fan
of that,
no.
But I think it works pretty good for chicks. I mean, I've taken it. I've used it. I mean, because it was in front of me. I think at that point in time, the rest of the way my plan and everything was going, it wasn't noticeable for me much. But that's like saying, hey, I'm going to add 20 milligrams of Anavar to my 100 milligrams of Anadrol a day. Probably not going to notice it a whole lot.
Yeah.
But I think it works. I mean, I think it's got S4. I took S4 for a while, a couple times, and it didn't really bother me. I didn't get any, people talking about your face turning orange and, you're going to get jaundice and all these things. And I never had a problem with it. But
no, yeah, I don't think theoretically it's hepatically stressful. But I've never heard of anybody, neither of you, Scott, who's had real jaundice. I mean, the only thing is it does your vision.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I took it, and after a couple of weeks, I was driving and I'm looking at the lights. I'm like, wow. I mean, you look at paper and it's there's a yellow hue to it.
Yeah. That's scary.
Yeah.
All right. You
well,
mentioned
the YK. I thought
it's a waste of fucking money.
Really?
That was just one that got overhyped.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I still have some that I was given some when it first came out, and I used it for a few days, and I started getting acne on my biceps, and then I stopped using it. Never got into it.
Yeah, it's not gonna do anything.
All right.
I mean, if we actually sit here and really use our 10 brain cells all together, think of all the things that were the latest, greatest, that were going to be the best ever that you don't ever hear about anymore. Especially when the message boards were really hot. I mean, it was every 6 months there was another greatest thing to ever be developed on Earth, and then 5 years later you never hear about it again.
All right.
It's hard to you can't reinventing the wheel.
Dave, you mentioned IGF and liking IGF LR3. What if, hypothetical situation, there's a guy who has a few vials of it that is 2 years old. Do you think it still works? It's been in the fridge the whole time.
Frozen or refrigerator?
The fridge the whole time.
Good point.
Freezer, I'd say go for it. Refrigerator,
nope. No. He's right.
Yeah.
But you got it. You got to just use it.
Yeah, he may have tried like 100
it's,
micrograms pre-workout and didn't feel any pump or anything.
It'll denature after a while if it's not frozen.
Yeah. All right.
That's my favorite, LR3. That was my bomb. That was one I fell into accidentally one time, and with Torrent. Remember Torrent, the carb Torrent? That was a post workout LR3 and Torrent.
Yep.
Yeah.
Only long R3. I know it's not, call me old fashioned, whatever. That's the only IGF that's going to do anything.
When would you say that's most beneficial? Before training, after training?
Post.
And
not a lot. Yeah, post.
Yeah.
But I mean, not a lot. I mean, basically, it's like this. Some people like, okay, here we go, sensitivity. Some of these guys will like start off 100 micrograms post workout. After 6 days, it won't do anything.
Yeah. What if you only took it what if you only trained 4 days a week?
I mean, yeah, great. Even better.
But I mean, that 100 micrograms then, is it going to stop working?
No, I mean, why not just, basically like, I don't know, 30 micrograms post for 2 weeks, 60 micrograms, then 60 micrograms post for 2 weeks, then taking 2 weeks off, then repeating.
Okay.
That's pretty much, I think you can go for
most of it was 30 days. And at 30 days, it was starting to lose its luster.
Yeah, right. So basically it's 4 weeks on, 2 weeks off. After 30 days, it will not work.
Okay.
It works good post workout.
Oh yeah, that's
you need some wicked pumps from it. I mean, it's like I had veins pop out of the top of my head and shit.
Yeah.
With Torrent, which no one would ever take Torrent. I don't think they make Torrent anymore, but it's not the popular one. Yeah. The only bad part is it's got that like jelly. It doesn't mix very well. The carb Torrent. It's kind of jelly-ish, so you got to kind of suck it down pretty quick.
All right. So what was that mustache question, Dave? Somebody asked.
Okay, first of all,
does Dave know?
We got to take a wait. Let's cut to the chase.
Yeah.
We got to take a listener poll. You need a fucking porn stash.
Yeah, I can't.
If it's to do with the glasses, Scott, you concur?
The other glasses. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like
rage.
I don't like the facial hair. It just doesn't. I get irritated by it, and then I just want to shave it off.
Okay, I'll take it a step further. A porn stash and grow a Kerry King beard with beads.
Just like that long goatee thing.
Yeah.
I think you should go with
But all kidding aside, there was a listener question, and correct me if I'm wrong. It was verbatim. How much masterone should Scott use to grow a stash? Right? Is that?
Yeah, to grow a Mike Menser mustache, because I've been into Menser lately.
I know, I've seen that. Mike Menser, by the way, does have a porn stash.
No, totally, he did. Yeah,
he did.
Yeah.
I would say 100 milligrams every other day, and then if you want the handlebar one, 150 every other day.
150. All right.
That's I'm going with that. All
right, cool. Fair enough.
Or you could take none and just tape one on.
Yeah.
You can just grow it. Yeah, you can just grow it.
Yeah.
Can you grow a mustache?
Yeah, I can grow some decent facial hair, but
that's what I thought. Yeah.
I'm not interested. I might not shave for a few days. That's just my quarantine look. And then I didn't shave today. And then I'll probably shave tomorrow though. That's just my jam.
I think you should forget Kerry King. I think you should grow the Tom Araya, the Santa Claus mustache.
Everybody has a beard nowadays. You know that? You notice that? Look at S2H has a beard, but you had one before. So
I've always had this sexiness.
You're doing it to be cool, like all the kids. That's what it is.
Yeah, it makes me look like a kid.
When you're strikingly handsome as I am, if I grow a beard or like a goatee, it's just not going to be fair to the other gentlemen around me. So that's why I figure I want to keep the. I mean, look at this guy here. I don't want to. He's already ahead. Look at that profile. Look at Scott's profile. Damn, look at that.
Yeah, I'm not a big facial hair fan personally, but yeah, it seems like everybody has a beard nowadays. That's the thing to do. You grow a beard and you compete in classic physique. That's the combo.
Yeah,
that's where I'm heading.
Yeah,
I thought you were doing board shorts.
I'll do anything. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
So this.
No, I don't do board shorts. I don't really have a good ass for board shorts. They don't really, they kind of get that flat look.
This next weekend, we are going to have a historical event happening in the state of Michigan. Michigan State Championships is being held and it will be in a tent.
What?
A tent?
Yeah.
It's a big tent, probably.
Like a circus tent. Like a circus.
Wow.
This whole thing's a circus.
Man, it better not be humid or the freaking.
Yeah, no kidding.
Tanning,
Oh my
man.
God.
How are they going to tan anybody when it's outside?
Okay, so here's what I've heard. Actually, I can probably look up on, let's see. I'll go to the weather report here. Let's see here. So next weekend is supposed to be, well, right now we're predicted for about 90 and thunderstorms.
That'll work out well.
Tons of humidity.
Yeah, a lot of humidity going on.
In a tent. In a tent.
In a tent, yeah. So
Good luck with that.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me.
well, the other option is they just don't do it, is what it comes down to.
When everybody's up there all streaked and, it's going to look like
It was going to be streaking and dripping protan. Scott, are you going to go to said venue?
Actually, yes. I have 2 clients that are competing there, so I shall be there.
So you will film inside of said venue and show us the tent, right?
Oh, absolutely. There's no question. I'm gonna do a video for Think Big. It's gonna be.
You'll show the outside of the tent as well as the interior, right?
I will. Now that you mentioned it, I'll make sure I do. Yeah.
You might not want to spray them.
Well, they got it. What are you gonna do? Not tan?
Fuck.
Melanotan.
Melanotan.
It's a little late now.
They can have boners on stage.
I mean, I could legitimately see that being just a nightmare.
Yeah. They're gonna stage him in air conditioning, and then he's gonna have cooling fans in the tent.
Okay.
So.
That's the only way.
I mean, I feel like you could probably, now think about this. If you had cooling fans blowing on you, usually when you're on stage, it's hot and those lights are hot and you're just sitting there in stagnant air. But if you had like a fan blowing on you the whole time you're posing, I don't know.
I'd get a
Maybe
boner.
it'll be good. Maybe it'll turn out to be good.
Yeah, it might be all right. The lighting, I'm assuming the lighting is not going to be the best, or it's going to be quite different than an indoor venue.
I mean, they could rig up scaffolding, in a big enough tent.
If the tent's white, it's going to be an odd lighting situation.
Maybe they'll paint the tent black.
Maybe it'll rain.
Yeah, it probably will.
I'm going to watch that video.
Yeah, I'm going to watch it too.
Yeah, I'm excited though. Because here's the thing. I asked somebody the other day. I was like, "Hey, are you coming out to the Michigan?" Guy that I know in the area that competes, and he was like, "No." I was like, "Really?" And he sounded like he was disappointed. And he's like, "I just don't think." He was like, I don't know. Maybe he just didn't want to go. But his answer was that he was like, "I don't think, I don't think it's going to be like, I want to see guys at their best." He's like, "I don't want to see guys that like the quarantine, some guys might not have been able to compete. And so that there isn't going to be as many of them." And he was like, "And I want to see them under the best lights. Like, I don't want to see them in a tent."
No offense, but like, how often is there really, really good lights at these shows? How often are they done?
That's a good point. Good point. Yeah. My thought is like, it's a once in a lifetime event, really,
Yeah.
Do you remember the beginning of Pumping Iron? They had, right after the ballerina part, then they went to like some amateur contests.
Yeah.
And the guys on stage were in a tent. And there was like a calliope playing. Like an organ.
I vaguely, was it inside the tent?
Yeah. It was like, it was like a big tent. And it looked hot.
So it'll be like
fuck.
Pumping Iron.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking.
So does that mean you might as well just adjust and you have like the big posing trunks, and grow sideburns out real quick?
Get your diaper on.
Everybody will be under the same conditions.
Posing trunks.
Everybody will be under the same conditions. So there is that. You know what I mean? So, it's not like you have a disadvantage, but somebody else won't,
That's a good point. That's true. Everyone's in the same venue.
Right. Exactly.
Same ring.
Yeah. So
we'll see how your video comes out.
I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful for this.
I'm curious.
Yeah. Well, that's all we got, guys. This is the.
I gotta pee.
All right. So, anyways, guys, I probably should have mentioned this at the beginning, but if you enjoy our content, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. This is for everybody on YouTube, not you live listeners. Although you should head over there and do that too. And, of course, check out our sponsors, truenutrition.com. You can use our code ADVICES, and go to getazoth.com. You can use our code ADVICES10. Dave Kalick, thank you for joining us, guys.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, it's fun, guys. We'll do it again.
It's been fun. S2H, it's a pleasure as always.
I'm still waiting for my Azoth.
Oh, yeah. We'll work on that.
Scott McNally.
See you guys.